After real wages plummeted by $3,000 under Sleepy Joe Biden, real wages are up by $1,300 in less than 1 year under President Trump. For construction workers, wages are up $1,800. Don't forget, they were down $3,000. Factory workers over $2,000, and for many other workers, over $5,000. And I just gave the military, because we're doing so well with taking in so much money with the tariffs, I just gave them $1,776. You saw that, right? Did you see that? They had 75, and I said, you know, if you had $1 more at $1,776, they said, that was a good idea. We could afford $1 more. We gave them $1,776. Meanwhile, grocery prices are starting to go rapidly down. Rent is down. Airfares are down. Hotel rates are down. Cell phone prices are down. And we're just getting started. But more importantly than going down, our growth is through the roof. It's way up. Among my first acts in office was to end the radical left war on oil and gas and stop the crusade to kill American energy, and frankly, to open up cars so that you don't have to have an electric car. I love electric cars. I think they're great. I like Elon a lot. I don't think he was too happy with my policy of opening it up, and I can understand that. But I've been saying it for 4 years. They wanted everybody to have an electric car in a very short period of time. There was no way to build the stations. There was no way to get it done. I want you to have gasoline-powered cars. I want you to have electric. I want you to have hybrids. I want you to have everything. Hydrogen, I don't know about. I'm hearing it's not testing so well. It's fine, except when there's an explosion, you're a goner. Now, have you heard that with hydrogen? One guy is trying to sell hydrogen, and I say, yeah, but, sir, that only happens 1 in 100. Oh, great. When it happens, they find the body like 300 yards down the road. So I said, I'll pass on hydrogen. Maybe there's something I don't know about, but is anybody in the hydrogen car business? Gasoline is now under $2.50 a gallon in 17 states and under $2 in many places. We have some states it's $1.95, $1.99, $1.97. As we speak, these are gas stations, and think of that. We have gas stations in the Detroit area where you can fill up for less than $2.30 a gallon, whereas 2 years ago it was $4.50, and in many places it was way over $5. Think of that, $2.30. You see it. That's like a massive tax cut, which we gave you under the great big beautiful bill, by the way. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. And with our extremely successful operation in Venezuela earlier this month, that number soon is going to go lower because we're going to have a lot more energy. We're going to have a lot more, as opposed to a country that's going to be totally shut down. No fuel, no gasoline. And it's, you know, they say it's got more than Saudi Arabia. Who knows? It's got a lot. And by the way, to all Iranian patriots, keep protesting. Take over your institutions if possible. And save the name of the killers and the abusers that are abusing you. You're being very badly abused. If the numbers are right now, I hear 5 different sets of numbers. I hear numbers. Look, 1 death is too much. But I hear much lower numbers, and then I hear much higher numbers. But I say save their names because they'll pay a very big price. And I've canceled all meetings with the Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stops. And all I say to them is help is on its way. You saw that I put tariffs on anybody doing business with Iran. Just went into effect today. And I say make Iran great again. You know, it was a great country until these monsters came in and took it over. And it's all very fragile. It would have happened to us, I'm telling you. If I didn't win this election, it would have happened to us. In the coming weeks, I will be laying out even more plans to help bring back affordability. And again, remember, that's a fake word by Democrats. Prices were too high. They caused the high price. They never want to talk about affordability. They always go, this is an election about affordability. I say, they caused it. But they're good at that stuff. They're good at that stuff. They're fake. And they're good at that stuff. It's an election about high prices that was caused by the Democrats and that I brought down a lot. And remember, when you see energy coming down like I brought it down, and gasoline coming down, that brings everything else down. It's so much bigger than any other factor. When gasoline gets to be $1.99, a gallon. Everything comes down. The donuts come down, the truck that delivers the donuts, the stove that makes the donuts, the whole thing, it all comes down, and it's coming down much faster than anybody can even believe. And remember, though, I always say, because normally when that goes down, the world comes down. That's the bad way of bringing it down. Our growth is through the roof. So I always want to say that whenever I say prices are coming down, but our growth is going way up. Two beautiful events, the exact opposite of the Biden administration. As part of those efforts at Davos next week, I'm going to provide much more detail about our housing policies so that every American who wants to own a home will be able to afford one. We have some great things happening with housing, as you know. You saw the $200 billion buy-in on bonds and mortgages. This will include a ban on large institutional investors buying up single-family homes all over the country and making it impossible for people to buy a home. And I've also announced that the U.S. government is purchasing $200 billion of mortgage bonds to bring down mortgage rates, and it's had a huge impact. It's already started. And just last week, the average 30-year mortgage dropped below 6% for the first time in many years. It's coming down very rapidly, and that's not with the help of the Fed. If I had the help of the Fed, it would be easier. But that jerk will be gone soon. In addition, I proudly called for the credit card companies to cap interest rates at 10% for 1 year because they're getting 28% and 30% and 32%. And it's unfair. The rates are way too high. To provide further relief to hardworking Americans, we'll also be confronting one of the biggest factors in driving up prices, the monstrosity known as the Unaffordable Care Act. You know what that is, right? It's Obamacare. It's a great name, Unaffordable Care Act. Nope. Did anybody ever think of that one before? It's true. It's the Unaffordable Care Act. Obamacare was a gift to make health insurance companies rich at the expense of the American people. In particular, the so-called enhanced premium tax credits were a corrupt payoff to the insurers whose stock prices went up more than 1,000% after Obamacare was signed. I want the same money I want it to go directly, very simple. I want the money, those big amounts of money paid for by the government, to go directly to the people so they can buy the health care that's right for them. They can negotiate their own deal, health care savings account, but they'll buy their own health care. And everybody loves it. That's why later this week, I'll announce our health care affordability framework that will reduce premiums for millions of lower drug prices, delivering price transparency and demand honesty and accountability from insurance companies all over the country, all over the world, actually. Health care costs will come down very fast with my most favored nation executive order. We're doing most favored nation drug prices. When we would have drug prices stay the same, everybody thought it was great. They're going to be coming down thousands of percents. We're standing up to special interests and slashing prescription drug prices by 300, 400, 500, and even 600% and more. I mean, think of that. On that alone, we should win the midterms in a landslide. I'm doing favored nations. The country that pays the lowest price in the world is the price that we're going to pay. And we got that because of tariffs, because I said to the countries they wouldn't approve it. The drug companies were tough, but they were fine. But they said the countries will never do it because you have a pill that sells for $10, you have to sell it for 20 or 30, so you'd have to double or triple the price of their health care there for prescription drugs. Ours would come down from $130 to $20. Theirs would go from 10 to 20, the world being a bigger place. And it was unbelievable, but the countries wouldn't do it. So I called the countries. I said, if you don't do it, then I'm going to put a tariff on you. And the tariff's going to be 20 times more than the cost that you're having to pay for fair health care. And every one of them said, sir, we agree with you 100%. We would be honored to do it. It was really rather amazing. We could never do it. So think of that. You have most favored drug prices. Your drug prices are going to go down like from $100 to $10. Nobody can believe it. And we can't get the fake news to write about it. It's the biggest thing to happen in medicine. It's the biggest thing to happen in healthcare. And I cannot get the New York Times, I cannot get anybody to write about it. When we got it done and we announced it, it was on a page way in the back of the New York Times. Same with others. They don't want to talk about it. You know why? Because it's so good. It's the biggest thing to happen. Over the past 12 months, almost every promise I made to you right here in 2024 has been kept. I've kept all my promises and much more. I mean, I've given you much more than I gave you promises, and I produced much more than I said I was going to produce. I gave you the largest tax cuts in American history, cutting taxes across the board in the great, big, beautiful bill. And as I told you, I mean, who would have gotten you no tax on tips, as I said before, no tax, I say it over and over again, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our seniors. Any senior should be voting for us because the Democrats won't do this. It doesn't work for them. And we also made interest on car loans fully tax deductible so that when you go out and buy a car, if you have a mortgage or you get a loan on a car, you're allowed to deduct interest for the first time ever. That's never happened before. But only for cars that are stamped with the beautiful words, made in the USA. In other words, we're only letting that take place if the car is made like in Detroit or in the USA. Our tax cuts also provided 100% bonus depreciation on all new equipment and capital investments, meaning that for any manufacturer looking to bring production back to America, you can write it all off, everything, not in 38 years, not in 44 years, in 1 year. You write the whole thing off in 1 year. That's the biggest thing there. I think that's the biggest thing. That's the big job producer. And I've cut an unprecedented number of burdensome regulations. We're number one in the history of our country in cutting regulations. I promised to cut 10 old regulations for every one new regulation. So if we put on a regulation, the only way I'll allow it to happen is if the secretary, like Scott Bessent, cuts 10 old regulations. But instead, last year we actually cut 129 regulations for every one that we put in. Think of that. So nobody's ever cut regulations like I have. I terminated the insane electric vehicle mandate and ended the war on internal combustion engines once and for all. Those engines were gone. And some people like them. And if they like them, great. And if they like electric, if they like any form of propulsion, any way you want to propel your car is okay, except for a couple of them, as I discussed. I permanently stopped Joe Biden's ridiculous CAFE standards. You know what the CAFE standards are? They're standards that make it impossible for you to build a car affordably. They make it impossible for a car to really work right. The CAFE standards sound so nice. The CAFE standards, it's environmental standards that are impossible to meet. And we're canceling the EPA's absurd tailpipe emission standard, one of the worst ever. And I revoked the California emissions waiver to stop San Francisco communists from regulating automobiles all over our nation, all over our world.